7:15. Now, according to the World Health Organization, at least 800,000 people take their own lives every year.
Suicide is reported to be the leading cause of death among young people aged between 15 and 29.
Well, last month, a 13-year-old primary school pupil committed suicide after being subjected to cyberbullying.
Well, on the show this morning, we'll be speaking now to a survivor who had failed suicide attempts years ago and has since turned her life around.
Well, Tyranian Woodley is the author of a book called Girl on Fire. She joins us this morning. Tyrania, good morning.
Morning.
And thanks for coming out and speaking to us. It's a very brave thing. I think we all agree. Very brave for you to recount these experiences for us as well. Just a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what's in your book.
Okay, so Girl on Fire is an autobiography. As you explained, it recounts my failed suicide attempt 5 years ago. For me, it is a journey of truth-telling, which is extremely important for me. But other than that, I'm a mum, a single mum of 2 kids, a specialist business writer, and also an editor.
Now, when was the book published?
In April last year.
Okay, I'm sure it was not an easy journey for you to get to the point where you wanted to share with the world what you had gone through.
It was really difficult. So the book was 5 years in the making. But I think the timing was perfect for when it got published last year. And for me, I was able to connect the dots backwards. And the reason that I survived, obviously, was to have a higher purpose and to fulfill that purpose now.
So what led you to those suicide attempts? Where did it all start for you? If you look back now in retrospect, you probably have a better idea as to where this all started, or not quite?
I do. So depression was something that I had suffered with for many, many years, and it was something that was such a stigma, especially in a small town community. It's not something that we openly speak about. For me, it was about not ever being able to fit in. I considered myself to be a proverbial black sheep. I just didn't know where my interests lay, and I didn't know what I wanted to become. So depression, and there was a whole lot of life experiences that had happened over the years. I just never knew how to deal with it. It was something that I didn't feel strong enough to be able to speak about until the failed suicide attempt, and that turned everything around for me.
Okay, leading up to that, I'm just thinking here, what made you make the turn? I mean, if I read about the press release that we got about your book, your experience of alcoholism, rape and emotional abuse, death, 2 divorces, 3 miscarriages and betrayal. I mean, you look at all of that in one's life, it's like a lot really to deal with. I mean, where does the turn happen?
So I think I was one of the lucky ones. I had therapy for many, many years, but it was cognitive therapy, and it never really did anything for me. The way the universe works, and my spirituality happened by osmosis since then, was I survived the suicide, and a day later I was put in touch with an organization called the SOAR Institute. They do amazing, amazing personal development work, and I had gone on a workshop, and that literally transformed my life. It was 3 days, a roller coaster, and it was really something that I needed to connect to who I really was. They had given me permission to be who I am, and that is how I managed to live my purpose, and that really was the catalyst for change for me.
And as you
sorry, but I don't think, I just want to get an understanding that if somebody's watching this, it was not just an easy journey for you to turn around. So you got to that Soul Institute, but you had to do a lot of work to get yourself right.
I think the work is ongoing. I think it's a continuous journey. For me, what was really the changing point was being able to speak my truth. And I think that is what happens with a lot of people, is that we anesthetize. We are too afraid of the stigma, and so what happens is that we use alcohol and drugs and food and sex and whatever else to cover up. But the bottom line is, when we get to speak to the truth, speak about the truth, we uncover things. And that, for me, is where the change happens.
And your story, Tyrania, I think is something that a lot of our youngsters could read and could learn from. Like you say, like you've heard, we've been giving details of the youngest, the latest person, a 13-year-old, bullied on WhatsApp. It was cyberbullying. You also, as a young child, that's where your realizations of certain things started to happen. What the support around you, or lack of support? I don't know exactly, how you would phrase it. Just advice to youngsters about where to go, who to talk to, and how to deal with it if nobody believes you and if nobody wants to listen?
I think that was a real challenge for me because, you know, we came from a generation that isn't big on speaking.
Yeah.
So the kids of today, they have to know that help is available. And speaking about it, if you can't do it to your family or friends, you know, reach out to someone in authority. It's extremely important to own your truth. And I think children of today, there's so much of pressure to conform, so much of pressure to be cool and to fit in. And that was something that I had struggled with for years because I never did. I never fitted in. And I had to get really comfortable with who I was, and that's something that I only sort of figured out now in the last few years. So for children that are really struggling, you know, it's really important to have people in positions of power that give kids permission to speak about things like this.
Joanna, before you go, very briefly, what's your biggest fear then today, having survived this?
I don't think I have any. I think that I've realized that every single thing that's happened to me and that will continue to happen to me is for my greatest good. So, fearless, maybe.
Fearless, brave, and tough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story a little bit with us. And there's the book, Girl on Fire.
Yeah.
If you want to have a look, that's Tyranian Woodley, author of that book called Girl on Fire. She's a suicide survivor, busy turning her life around. No more fearful.